Hello. I'm making a video for my friend Sandy with the crocodile because my hands are cold and maybe I'll take the giraffe too. So I got a giraffe here. So I'll take the giraffe. So I want to make this video in two parts because there's a lot to talk about and the video uploading capacity is about maximally I think 40 minutes on the tablet and about the same here, but there's so much to talk about. This is such a complex subject that I want to discuss now today. And so I asked Sandy if I can mention her name, and if I could talk about the basic stuff. I'm not gonna get into the details, of course, with other people, but at least not with people who are decent. If someone is not decent, like the trolls, then I will get into the details with them. That's because it needs to be discussed, that stuff. But Sandy and I have Aspergers, and a lot of other people have Aspergers, and I know a lot of people with Aspergers. Paul doesn't have Aspergers. For Paul, it's something else. It's crybaby brain state. But what? So first of all, what's the difference between an Asperger and a regular, normal human, like everyone else? And then the other question is, why do they regard Asperger's as not normal, and why do they think that something that is not normal should be regarded as abnormal and bad? So maybe the Asperger person thinks that of the other people. So maybe the Asperger person thinks that society is not, it may be normal because it's the norm, right? But it's not healthy. It's not something that we want to see in the world. So that's why, Asperger's is Asperger. Asperger. Hans Asperger, I think, was his name. A Swiss psychiatrist somewhere a long time ago, in the 40s or something, in the Dark Ages. So he observed something in people were a specific characteristic. And also, as Sam Vaknin already said, we can't just box someone into one category and close the door and say, no, this is a completely clear-cut case of this or that or that or that. All of these descriptions, all of these labels that are given to people, or categories, those are just tentative approaches to try to organize something, to try to group people into specific categories in order to clear the space, in order to get more in order to get a grip on it. It's so difficult already to get a grip on people's brains, So and so there's never someone that is like the 100% SP or Asperger's person, or psychopaths or this or this or that, So or borderline or whatever people have, you know. So, and many people have many different categories. They fit into all kinds of categories, as this is the case with me. You know, I am a classic BPD, borderline personality disorder person. And I'm a classic SP, classic Aspergers, both, you know. So then I heard people say, people with Asperger's, they tend to be more going into schizoid personality. That's not necessarily true, you know. So, or Arjanov said something like, if you have OCD, then you can't become psychotic. You know, that is completely not true, because OCD is, even though it is a last ditch attempt to ward off complete insanity and schizoid mental states, it is already like very much at the verge, you know. That's what borderline means. Borderline at the verge, you know. Borderline and OCD, that goes together, I would say every borderline person has OCD, does OCD rituals and all of this. And I think a lot of Asperger's people do OCD rituals. And all of these things, you know, there is no clear border. You know, the people can suffer from many of these categories and fit into all kinds of different categories at the same time. It's just an attempt from science in order to try to understand those different groups, you know, the different types of people, different types of brains, and how they function, and what differentiates them from other people, and how do they function in a specific situation differently than someone with a different type of disorder. And almost every human has a disorder, okay? It is the human ape situation, you know. It's the human ape is not a healthy animal anymore, okay? So the human ape has, and that's all part of evolution, the human ape has evolved into a tragic mental basket case, you know. And that is the truth. It's just that we have also different brain formations. Of course, women and men are very different in their brain formations. People in general have different brain formations. Some people have larger amygdala, they have more compassion. People with Williams syndrome, which is actually a genetic disorder, it is it is it is a very serious genetic disorder, but they just so happen to have very large amygdala, so they have huge compassion. Okay, but then there are other areas in the brain that are not developed. So I have huge compassion, just like the Williams people, but and I have a lot in common with the Williams people also, but I'm not Williams, so I have a normal and high IQ brain, so and I have a very intuitive, psychic, and very artistic brain. So I'm very lucky with the brain I have. But then on the other hand, there's always the flip side to things. So my brain is like wide open. There are no defense mechanisms at all, and I wouldn't need to take DMT or mushrooms. My brain is already in this wide open state. I can see all kinds of things. I see formations and so-called random patterns. I talked about this many times. So that has an advantage. I also am very intuitive. I also can see sort of like around the corner with people. That's why, and I'm also very paranoid, and I like to monitor people for a long time before I become friends with them. So the internet gives me this opportunity, in school or whatever, Santa Monica College, I meet someone. I can't monitor these people. They're in class with me. I can monitor them. In class, I can observe their behavior. And of course, I see a lot more when I see people in person. I see body language. I see all kinds of things. So I ended up with a Japanese girlfriend, a Japanese woman friend, not girlfriend. So we were friends, and she kind of clung to me as a mother figure, sort of, because I've always been this maternal figure that people trust and people like to hang on to for safety. And I saved her life also. This is quite something. And Paul saved a Japanese woman's life too. This is quite a synchronicity. So, but I always get off the subject. So they fit into many different, different psychiatric groups, and also, some people fit partially into the group. Some people have all the whatever 10 or 20 characteristics of that particular group, which I have with borderline and with Aspergers. Absolutely 100% fit all of these characteristics. But then I fit also other characteristics. I also fit into histrionic, but not 100%, because I have very deep compassion, and a lot of people, they will think when they hear me say this, no, you have grandiose personality disorder. You are just bragging. You are just making that up. It is really something else. It's really malignant narcissism or something. No, it really isn't. Okay, it really isn't. I have to disappoint you. It isn't. I know people like to interpret that so that they can make themselves feel a little bit better and say, "Ha ha, gotcha, you're just bragging. You're just a bad girl like everyone else, You're just this or this. You're sleazy. You're a hoe. You are this. You just want to lure. You just want to fish men in and whatever, They come up with all kinds of, ways of describing me and thinking that I must be this or that. I must be just as, as selfish or whatever, self-centered as most people are. And this is not a judgment, So, yes, most people are very self-oriented, and yeah, it's part of evolution. That's the reptile brain. Yes, 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 we are selfish. Yes, yes, yes. But I love the giraffe. Yes, I love to eat her. No, I'm just kidding. So, no, but, there are some people that have compassion. Okay. My friend Sandy has deep, deep, deep compassion, and so do I. Okay. And Pretty has deep compassion. Okay. And I know that Mex has compassion. And I know that Zane has compassion, cluttered up with mountains and mountains and mountains of disguise, of hiding, behind facades over facades over facades. And that's miserable, that's awful. So but there's compassion underneath, and I've seen this. Or if I hadn't seen that compassion, I would have been long gone and said, no, 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 I blocked that person. No, 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 no. But I saw that compassion. But regarding Zayn, obviously there's no way. I can't. I'm sorry. I care about you. I love you. I want you to be happy. But there's no way I can hang out with anyone who is cluster B, in that intense way. So anyone who is either psychotic or schizophrenic. I have been through all of this already. I've had a schizo boyfriend in Germany. It was absolutely impossible for me to continue this relationship or a friendship at all with him. It would not work. It would not work. And he was living already he was living in his own fabricated world. He wasn't even present. He was saying completely insane things. Like he would see something and then he would create some kind of personality into objects. And and then he would have total paranoia, and he thinks that I'm a secret agent, and the list goes on and on and on and on and on and on and on. It was really, really extreme, and there's no way I can be his therapist or help him or help anyone who is completely who is living either in a fantasy world or has snapshots of people that he creates into his own internal, like a theater play or something that he plays out for himself in order to make himself feel better, in order to make himself be the king in that theater play, which he's doing in the chat room. Okay. So I can play along for a while. I can try to help. I can try to give as much love as possible. But at some point, I see this isn't going anywhere. I'm not really helping. I don't think I can help if I continue to stay in some sort of like a mirage communication, talking to sock accounts, like, hello, yes, I love you, yes, I love you, I have no idea whether you're talking to me, yes, I'm talking to you, but you didn't even address my name. Well, I'm talking through the veil of the mirage. This isn't going anywhere, okay? I need a real man, a real flesh man to hold me, to be there, to be reliable. I'm just gonna try to describe everything that comes into my mind now. I'm gonna go up to 40 minutes and see how much I can cover with this, and then I will go outside with my tablet and talk about try to recall everything that I had already been thinking about, that I want to address on this subject, Aspergers. So basically I can just talk about myself. I'm wide open. I'm also I'm very light sensitive. I am sound sensitive. I'm touch sensitive. My breasts are very touch sensitive. Paul used to elbow me into my breasts when we used to sleep next to each other in LA. It was hellish. I would get mad. And then he would do that too with the dogs, and I get even more mad about that. And So the best thing is I have my own house, I have my own dog, I have my own life, okay? So then I can live my life the way I want to live it. And yes, I'll have to cook for myself, and it's okay. I need to do that. I need to not be so dependent, with my OCD. It's like, oh, I can't touch this, I can't touch that, and this is all contaminated, blah, blah, blah. This is all bad. Today I, also cried earlier again. I said, I am a complete mental slave to my OCD. The OCD is, I don't think anything is worse than OCD. OCD rituals in particular, like having to say some OCD ritual prayers and those kind of things, and like OCD ritual affirmations, and it fades over gradually. It can fade over gradually into religion. Religion itself is OCD in my personal view. It's just institutionalized and recognized by other people as a religion. That's the only difference. I create my own religious rituals that I make up as I go, and then I have to say this kind of stuff in order to protect myself from something else. I have to constantly give myself affirmations on different things, like everything is gonna be okay, everything is safe, we are protected, the blue God protects us, over and over and over again. The blue God says to me, you don't have to say this over and over. You don't have to touch that rock over and over. I have certain rocks that I touch in a specific way. It's OCD rituals. The blue God says you don't have to do it. The blue God also kind of plays with me, and says, don't do it. I'll get mad if you do this again. And I fall into this trap, and then I try to force myself not to do it. Then in the moment when I'm forcing myself not to do the rituals, then I'm in resistance to the rituals, which are part of resistance. Yeah, it's like I try to control the world. I try to control my world. And so I'm OCD is a state of resistance, and then I bring resistance in to resist the resistance. That's what Adi Ashanti was talking about. He said it doesn't work. Of course it doesn't work. I resist the resistance, and then the resistance gets worse, and then the OCD rituals get worse, and then I spend an hour with OCD rituals, which I could use to write something important or make a video about, which I'm doing now. I have to really I have to use my left brain hemisphere, the logical brain hemisphere, and the prefrontal cortex, to get that, to not bypass that, and to use that, and to say, this is enough now, I have to move on. I have to trust, okay? Just trust into the infinite cosmos. I can't be there like doing OCD rituals all day long, thinking I can ward off something that I'm afraid of. And oftentimes we're absolutely terrified of even admitting to ourselves what we're afraid of. We don't even want to think about it, what we are afraid of. Like, for example, the taco train and burrito bandito, and being abducted and tortured, those kind of things. For me, that has put me into a panic attack in 2012. That kind of thought, that kind of obsessive thinking. It was hell. It lasted for half a year. I was in a full-fledged psychosis for half a year. So, not only that, I was afraid of ghosts. I know this is real. this sounds really funny, and hilarious and totally absurd and Dadaistic and obnoxious and insane and completely batshit crazy. But yeah, I have suffered from fear of ghosts my entire freaking life. I mean, it was so bad. I had monstrous fear. Also, when Kenny was still here, my Great Dane, and he would get spooked out of certain things in the room, just like, and that would just reinforce my fear. And I like, he sees something that I don't see. He's more psychic than I am, and he was deaf, and so, and he had Aspergers. He had more than Asperger's. He was autistic, and when he got the mercury vaccine shot, the rabies shot, which is mandatory in California, then, which I would like to avoid, but each time after that shitty rabies shot, it would get much worse. He would get spooked out by everything and every shadow, the laundry on the laundry line flinging in the wind with the moon shining on it. He would totally freak out over that. And I would be real upset and angry at the pharma industry when I would see that, and cry and just feel so horrible for Kenny, what he had to go through. But he was naturally already totally psychic. So I think that autism in general, but particularly Asperger's, which I personally do not put into the autism spectrum. Some people do, some people don't. Okay, I don't put it in that spectrum. Autism is when someone really lives in an internal world, does not relate to other people, isn't even affected by outside stimuli. I'm highly affected by outside stimuli, of course. It's quite the opposite. I see everything. I see all kinds of things and all kinds of stuff all the time. It's overwhelming for me, absolutely overwhelming. And that's what I think the Asperger's is. So Asperger's is not an autistic person. Asperger's is someone who is wide open, like someone on DMT and ayahuasca, okay? Or someone on any kind of substance that opens up the brain, that opens up this, those brain formations, the pineal gland excreting more DMT and other substances. Who knows what other substances are all involved in all of this. It probably has something to do with the corpus callosum, which is actually, that's the scale of the brain between the two hemispheres and the rest of all the glands and all the chemistry that's going on in this unbelievably complex conundrum of the brain. And the corpus callosum is trying to, it's the scale that tries to weigh things out, that tries to, if there's something too much of this, then it brings something of that in to balance it out. If there's too much pain, it brings in DMT. If there's a shock state, it brings in DMT. So, but then again, DMT can open the person up to seeing more, and then it can create a dangerous situation as well. So that's why I don't recommend substances of any sort at all. So Asperger's is in my view, not autism. It is being a highly sensitive person, extremely highly sensitive person, who has compassion, has infinite compassion for all living beings. We become animal rights activists. I wouldn't be surprised if most animal rights activists have Aspergers. So we're wide open. We see someone suffer before they even recognize their own suffering. We talk to sock accounts and feel compassion for them. Starshine, So I feel compassion for you, Starshine, you sweet thing, The inner sapling, the little child, the inner child of Thane, That's what the Starshine is. That's his inner child talking, And the inner child said that he has two faces. He is very two-faced. Yeah, he has a malignant clown, and he has a very compassionate saint, and they can switch. They can switch on an instant too, So I don't think that is. I was thinking, some people might have DID, which is dissociative identity disorder. That's very rare though, and I have met a woman. I talked to her just very briefly. She makes videos on YouTube. I watch several of those people. I'm very interested in this. That's a coping mechanism. I believe my mother has that. Okay, she'd never admit that, of course. So, and it can be very difficult to deal with someone who has that because they actually totally lose touch with reality when they're in one personality versus the other. But I don't think Zane has DID. He has, that's a form of borderline. He admitted to me that he has borderline. And it makes sense because also Sam Vaknin talks about it. He says that borderline people, they can switch from one personality, not in different personalities that are separated from each other in form of an amnesia or something, or time lapse, where they actually don't know what the other person is doing. No, this is the BPDs, borderline personality disorder people. They switch, and they know they switched, but they switch. It's also unconscious. They can also switch unconsciously, but they still know they are both of these people, both of these personalities that they have. Everyone has different personalities to some degree. The difference between someone that doesn't have DID and someone with DID is that the people with DID, they make these different personalities into completely independently functioning entities. They're completely separate persons, personalities, and entities. I read a book by a woman. She was a professor at the university, and she had like 20 different personalities that were living in her mind, and she would switch totally without wanting to. This was a totally, completely unconscious process, and that happened according to the outside circumstances. A BPD person can do that too, but they still know that they are also the other person. They are the saint as well as the other mask or whatever other personality, the lover, the saint, the caring person, the activist, the selfish narcissist, the histrionic person. we know we have all of these in us, and they come out, and we are aware that they are there in the moment they are there, and we're aware that we're still one unit, sort of, you know. The DID person is not aware anymore of the of being herself or himself, you know. They become that other person, the other entity, and I think it goes so far that they also host different souls inside of them. So that's a very speculative statement, that's very unscientific, that would not be supported by anyone, by almost anyone in the scientific community. But I don't care about that, you know. So I don't. I'm not worried about being ridiculed. So I say what's on my mind, you know. I say what I think, what I suspect, what I speculate on, you know. At least things that should be thought about, that could be considered. And it seems like they have different entities in them, you know. And then people will say, then the religious people will come in. They say, yeah, those are demons, or those are evil entities, or whatever, or that's devil, or whatever. That's all religious, and that's just make believe, to blame something on something else, you know, not take responsibility. I don't believe in demons. I mean, a malignant narcissist or malignant narcissist personality or entity, and I've seen these, they come at me sometimes, they all want love, you know. I mean, you can call them demons if you want to, but then you're demonizing them. You're putting them, giving them a bad label, and you leave and you abandon them with that bad label, and that's something I don't want to do. That doesn't move us forward at all, you know. We don't move forward if we abandon people psychologically. I mean, I can say to Zane, look, I need a man who loves me, you know, and you should understand that, you know. So don't come after me anymore, and with your entity, with your ego energy and all of this, you know. And I talk to you, and I tell you that I send you infinite love and sunbeams of love, and I want you to be happy, you know. I want you to heal. I gave you help, you know. I gave you love, I gave you infinite compassion. I still do, but I am also alive, and I have feelings. I'm not a god. I'm not some psychiatrist, or I cannot help cluster B people at this point, you know. The only thing that I can do to help them is give them this information, you know. I give you any kind of information that you ask for, you know, health information. I have a lot of knowledge, but you have to do that work yourself. I can't do that for you, you know. I can't. And also, there was a guy one time there was a guy on Facebook. I'm not going to mention names, or maybe I should. I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't. But there was a guy on Facebook who wanted me to complete him. That's a while back. That's someone else. He wanted me to complete him. Like, you have to be my completion now. Now I can exist. That now I merge with you, and then you make me whole. I said, that doesn't work that way. I cannot make you whole, you know. You have to make yourself whole, okay? You don't need mama to take you by the hand. You are an adult now, okay? You have to make yourself whole. You can only help yourself. Then, you know, after much back and forth, I saw we are not compatible. I need a bigger guy. And that was like, that plunged him into an abyss, absolute abyss, and I feel absolutely terrible for him for that. But he brought it on, He brought up the penis photo, and I said, dude, that's not gonna work. So I'm so sorry, people always mistake the snow as now Nicola is doing it again. That's evil and whatever. Viro will call me evil for that. But this is all fact of life. We in order, if we're just friends, then that's a different thing. I don't care what size anyone is. But he wanted me in a physical way. And I said, this is not going to work. You have to get yourself a petite little girl, So, and not big mama. It's not going to work. Same for Paul, He needs petite little girl. He needs little Asian girl or something. That would be perfect. And I know there is a lid for every pot out there, I know there is, So, but then I might find someone with the right size, but then he's a complete whacked out psycho. Okay? How's that gonna work out? That's not gonna work out either. Okay, so it has to, I said it yesterday again, we women need a man to be there for us, to be reliable, not to be a psycho who just trips on every shit that he makes up or that he interprets or any kind of misunderstanding or whatever. So we need someone who is completely stable-minded, holds us in his arms, offers help, is there for us, doesn't cheat, doesn't flirt with other women in front of us. I've seen that so many times. That's just certainly not going to make us feel loved. And it's also used as a retaliation method and as an ego repair method. So, Sam Vaknin talks about this, That was a big eye-opener when Sam Vaknin talked about the malignant narcissist and his cheating methods. That the malignant narcissist doesn't cheat for the same reason as someone who's just bored with their wife or whatever and wants to find someone else. No, they cheat in order to do narcissistic injury repair. Okay. That's the mechanism of it. It has to be said, all of this. So I'm already over 40 minutes. I'm going to go into the garden now and will make part 2 on my tablet. That will go on to Nikki Loves Dogs. Okay, so you guys take care. Bye-bye. See you soon.